The man known to history as Nikola Tesla was born on the 10th of July, 1856 in Smiljan Lika, which was originally part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, but is now located in Croatia. His father was Milutin Tesla, a priest of the Serbian Orthodox Church and the son of Nikola Tesla's grandfather, who was also named Nikola. His grandfather had served as a military officer for the French Empire during the Napoleonic Wars and had risen to the rank of sergeant, before marrying Tesla's grandmother, Anna Kalinic, the daughter of a respected colonel. Following the defeat of Napoleon, Nikola Tesla returned to Lika, which was assimilated into the Austro-Hungarian Empire, where he fathered two sons, including Milutin and his brother Joseph, as well as three daughters named Stanka, Janja, and another whose name is unknown. Milutin Tesla and his brother were sent to the Austrian Military Officers Training Academy to follow the career path of their father. And while Joseph thrived, eventually becoming a professor of mathematics at a military academy in Austria, where he authored several standard mathematical textbooks, Milutin decided instead to choose a devotional path, enrolling in the Orthodox seminary in Plasky to train as a priest after being castigated in training for not maintaining the shininess of his brass buttons. Nikola Tesla's mother was Juka Mandic, the daughter of a priest from Grakac called Nikola Mandic, and the sister to three very successful brothers, including Nikolai, who climbed the ecclesiastical ranks to become the Archbishop of Sarajevo and the Metropolitan of the Serbian Orthodox Church in Bosnia, Pajo, who became a colonel in the general staff of the Austrian army, and finally Trifon, who excelled in the business sphere as a respected hotelier and landowner. In addition to being a dedicated housewife, Juka Mandic possessed a keen intellect and a strong work ethic, and was herself an innovator of her household appliances, which she often modified to make more efficient. She was an inventor of the first order, according to Tesla, and a creative influence on him until her death in 1892. Milutin Tesla was a gifted student and graduated with top honors in 1845, marrying the 25-year-old Juka Mandic in 1847, after being delegated to oversee the parish of Senj on the Adriatic coast. Settling into a house perched on top of a cliff overlooking the ocean, the newlyweds started a family, with Juka giving birth to their eldest son Dane in 1848, a firstborn daughter Angelina in 1850, and finally another daughter Milka in 1852. However, due to the poor pay he received and the salty sea air which caused him health problems, Milutin Tesla was reassigned to the Church of St. Apostles Peter and Paul in Smiljan, which meant the place of sweet basil, in Lika province, where he was provided with a picturesque farmhouse, a parcel of fertile land, and even an Arabian horse so that he could ride to see his parishioners. It was given to him by a Turkish pasha based in Bosnia as a reward for assisting some local Muslims, as well as being an extremely smart man who assembled a vast library packed full of volumes on religion, mathematics, science, and literary works in many different tongues. Milutin Tesla was also an arduous reformer of the Serbian people, regularly writing articles for a variety of newspapers and tirelessly promoting the establishment of language schools where Serbians could learn to read and write. According to his family, Nikola Tesla was born at midnight, sometime between the 9th and 10th of July, 1856, in the middle of a terrific thunderstorm. 3 days later, Nikola was baptized at his family home, and with his future seemingly already planned, he was also enlisted as a member of the 1st Lika Regiment of the 9th Medak Company, a squadron he was to join when he was 15 years old by law. By all accounts, Tesla's childhood was happy, and one he shared with his older siblings, as well as his younger sister Maritza, born in 1859, who would often accompany him to the churchyard or the farmyard to play with the chickens, geese, sheep, and other livestock which his father kept. Tesla was often joined by his black cat Machak, who first introduced him to the phenomenon that would define his life's work after he set off a loud spark upon stroking him. an event which was explained by his father as a secretion of electricity. In another formative experience, again involving Matchak, Tesla noted one day how a halo of light suddenly surrounded his dear cat, illuminating briefly the candlelit room he was sitting in. Inspired by such marvels, Tesla devoted much of his energy as a child to experimenting, and encouraged by his mother's inventive streak, drew up plans for flying machines very similar to how a helicopter would later function. He disassembled clocks to see how they worked, and even designed himself a wooden sword so that he could pretend to be a valiant Serbian warrior. Behind the fascination, however, lay a troubled young mind, as Tesla revealed that as a young boy, he suffered from a strange affliction, whereby he couldn't distinguish images from reality, which troubled him greatly. Tesla's childhood trauma was exacerbated by the death of his older brother Dane in 1863, who was killed in front of Tesla by the family's Arabian horse in a traumatic experience that would endlessly haunt him, and which was also the reason why his distraught father moved his family from the idyllic Croatian countryside to the larger town of Gospić, an unfamiliar environment where Tesla struggled to adjust to urban living. The untimely passing of Dane cast a long shadow over Tesla's own relationship with his father, who, mired in grief, always underappreciated the talents of his youngest son, a neglect that young Nikola tried to compensate for by striving to be perfect in everything he did so that he could win back the love of his parents. Blinded by sorrow, Milutin Tesla treated his young son with contempt, flying into rages when he caught him reading from his private library, and on one particularly hurtful occasion, after Nikola had accidentally ruined a local noblewoman's dress by unintentionally jumping on it as it trailed down the aisle of a church, he slapped his son across the face in public as a punishment. As a result of his strained relations, Tesla developed a series of peculiar phobias as a child, such as a repulsion for women who wore earrings and pearls, a strong aversion to hair, a loathing for the smell of camphor, as well as a number of other strange habits, including an obsession with counting his steps and measuring in volume the contents of his meals, calculations he was only satisfied with if they were divisible by 3. Overwhelmed by a plethora of odd neuroses, Tesla was able to regain some sense of balance after he came across a novel called Abafi, published in 1836 by Hungarian author Miklos Josica, which featured the story of Oliver Abafi, a young, impulsive nobleman and hedonist, recast as a valiant national hero who sacrifices himself for the well-being of the country. Tesla was particularly inspired by the character of the protagonist, seeing in his desire to better his moral character while ignoring frivolous distractions, a masterful example of self-restraint, which showed Tesla that it was indeed possible for him to control his wild emotions. Tesla realized that a good coping strategy was to work with, rather than against, the nebulous visions that assaulted his consciousness, and delving even deeper into the make-believe world of his imagining, Tesla began to embark on strange journeys, where he would stumble across fantastical countries, people, and cities that he dreamed up. As Tesla honed that untamed imagination that would later serve him so well in his profession, he began theorizing about the nature of reality itself, coming to the conclusion that he could trace all of his mental images back to something he either saw, smelt, or touched, in an early echo of the mechanistic view of the world he would later espouse. It was also an idea that had real-life application for Tesla, who on one occasion was extolled as a hero by a band of firemen after he spotted a small kink in a fire he instinctively knew was preventing water from reaching a burning building, a problem he quickly fixed by ironing the groove out. Tesla's ingenuity would be further fostered at the Real Gymnasium, the grammar school he attended in Gospić, where he would amaze his mathematics professors by demonstrating a natural ability to calculate numbers. But while he excelled in scientific pursuits, Tesla was unable to translate his talents to drawing class, where a preference for undisturbed contemplation distracted Tesla heavily, leading to grades that were so extremely poor, his father had to speak with the principal, which instilled in a young Nikola a lifelong aversion to diagrams. During his schooling at the real gymnasium, Tesla began to take inventions seriously, devising the schematics for a flying machine that would use the pressure of a vacuum to push air molecules, a concept that a grown-up Tesla would later go on to disprove. Shortly after he graduated from the real gymnasium in 1870, Tesla, perhaps because of his overactive imagination, became very sick, with a range of maladies sufficiently serious enough for the doctors treating him to nearly give up on his case entirely. Throughout his recuperation, Tesla began voraciously reading, and it was during this period that he was first introduced to the tales of Mark Twain. It was a story he would later recount to Mark Twain himself, who burst into tears upon hearing it. After a period of convalescence, Nikola Tesla was next enrolled at the higher real gymnasium in Karlovac in 1873, where, in accordance with his father's wish for Tesla to continue the family profession, he was enlisted in classes at the local seminary. However, Tesla's true desire was to learn everything he could about electricity, a passion ignited by an inspirational physics teacher who taught him about the radiometer invented by British scientist William Crookes, a device that powered a vacuum bulb with energy produced by 4 rapidly spinning tinfoil vanes. This roused Tesla to conduct some of his first experiments with batteries, induction coils, and electrostatic generators. Yet Tesla would have to put some of his projects on hold after again falling seriously ill with cholera upon his return home to Gospic, causing the young prodigy to be bedridden for over 9 months and to experience several close shaves with death. After one particularly worrying incident, Tesla supposedly implored his father that if he were to study engineering instead of entering the priesthood, that he may well recover, causing Milutin, desperate to avoid the unbearable pain of losing another son, to solemnly promise that Nikola would go to the best technical institution in the world. Having finally been heard, Tesla made a miraculous recovery. But before he could become a student, he was sent to the Croatian mountains with nothing but a bundle of books and some hunting equipment by his father, who, worried for his son's health, did everything in his power to hide his son from the authorities, as by law, Tesla would have to serve in the Austrian armed forces for 3 years. For 9 months, starting in the early fall of 1874, Tesla wandered the forests and lakes of the Eastern European countryside, becoming stronger physically and mentally as he thought deeply about invention, reshaping the vividness of his visions from a debilitating weakness into a powerful, contemplative tool that could be used to flesh out the contraptions that flashed across his mind, such as a pipe installed underwater that could transport letters and packages placed in capsules using the principles of hydraulic pressure, and a ring constructed around the Earth's equator that could be used as a high-tech transport network. When Tesla returned, his father had kept his promise, securing for him a scholarship at the Military Frontier Administration Authority that would enable him to study for 3 years at the Polytechnic School in Graz, Austria. Receiving an embroidered bag made from typical Serbian materials from his mother, which he would always prize, in 1875, Tesla left Gospic to start anew in a completely different culture and environment. In the same way that his own Serbian relatives had adapted to life on the Austro-Hungarian border decades prior. During his freshman year, Tesla proved himself to be a perfect student, never once missing a lecture, and supposedly studying from 3 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day, a schedule that was thought so extreme that one professor wrote to Milutin warning him that unless his son was escorted out of the school, that he might work himself to death, while others commended him for his zeal, such as the dean of the technical faculty, who informed Milutin Tesla that his son was, quote, a star of first rank. In fact, Tesla was keeping himself very busy, administering his earliest experiments with alternating current, or AC, that would later make his name. But during his sophomore year, Tesla would be sidetracked, developing a destructive gambling habit and wagering away his entire tuition fund in the process. Near destitute, Tesla had also neglected his studies, scoring extremely poorly in the examinations, and with no marks registered for his final semester, he was also unable to graduate and was forced to abandon the university in December 1878, a failure he made sure to keep secret from his family as well as his classmates, as he was riddled with guilt and embarrassment. In 1879, Tesla would live for a while in self-imposed exile, first making his way to the city of Maribor, where he became a draftsman and was paid 60 florins a month. While in his free time, he continued to play cards and wager money on the streets with the locals. Yet Tesla's Slovenian sojourn would be short-lived, as a couple of months into his stay, he was seized by the authorities for not possessing a proper residency permit and returned to Gospić, escorted by armed police.